Great to meet you. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about your new single, Okay.
Yeah, well, I have to start kind of with the last few years of writing music. It's been a little different for me. I've written three songs that, frankly, I wish I never had to write. The first was about Afghanistan, the withdrawal, called Blood on My Hands, that became significant to our Afghan veterans. The other one was called Can One Man Save the World, which was about Putin's invasion of Ukraine, where I actually went to Ukraine and performed with the Ukrainian orchestra, which was quite an experience.
Oh,
But
wow. Yeah.
October 7th brought another one, the song Okay, where the theme really is We Are Not Okay. And it was inspired by the mayor of New York City, actually, who gave a speech a couple days after October 7th, basically lamenting the thousands of people celebrating the atrocities of October 7th in Times Square. He said something's really wrong in our culture when we have thousands of people celebrating, rapes of women and
Yeah.
beheading of babies. And so that got me thinking about kind of the moral collapse of many of our institutions. Certainly we saw the media in some spaces start picking up Hamas propaganda. Certainly our college campuses have been raging, as we speak
That-
today.
yeah. I think I just right before we got on here, I got an alert saying, stay home if you can, the UCLA and USC campuses are, have police presence. It really has been a crazy time. But that's when, musicians like you and, you use music to get important points across because sometimes it's not easy for people to have these conversations. And like you said, you wish you didn't have to write this, but what's your hope with the song now that you did write it, that it's coming out, that's out, that people are, reacting to it?
Well, I think you're right. I think I learned when Superman became one of the songs that recognized the heroes of 9/11, and it provided solace for many of the victims' families. And I've spent, 20 years performing for our troops. So I see how music matters, right? And how it can, impact in ways beyond, fame and fortune and stuff like that. And with OK in particular, when I made a video to the song, kind of laying out what's happened, I wasn't in it. It was just clips of news media. When Israel shared it on their social media, I got tens of thousands of emails and comments from people who feel abandoned. Um, I also got a small sense of what it's like to be Jewish. I'm not Jewish, but the vitriol and the threats that come along with being Jewish these days. So I think the song has been significant in that respect, that especially with the deafening silence of the music industry,
Mhm.
um, which has been very disappointing to me.
Well,
The
I know
music. Yeah,
in that regard, you've started this Music Matters challenge that's been
yeah,
running. I think it just
yeah.
ended. I think it technically just ended, or it was extended. I think till Tuesday. So yeah, tell us about like you said, if the industry wasn't responding, kind of you took to social media to get get the word out and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of two separate entities that kind of came crashing down at the same time. The Music Matters Challenge, came about from a project I did a year and a half ago with the Tallman family in Chicago, where we wrote a song with some inner city Chicago kids who'd lost their music teacher, called Let Music Fill My World. They wrote the whole lyric. It was quite an experience. And through that effort, we raised, the Tallman family provided a music teacher for Farragut Academy for 3 years at $250,000. So that experience was so amazing. We're like, let's take this nationally. So
Hmm.
I like to say the Music Matters Challenge is like the ice bucket challenge for music in the schools,
Hmm.
where everybody can participate, make a video, tell a story about a music teacher that mattered to them, sing a little bit of the song, and then we'll have this contest and people will vote and we'll provide another music teacher and people will win $10,000. And but for me, it really came back to my mom because when music funding was cut in LA Unified, in elementary school in the 70s, my mom volunteered. She came into the school. She put on full musicals. I was Tony in West Side Story. And, 40 some years later, those kids in that class still reach out to my mom and tell her what a powerful that experience was for them. So I learned at a very young age how critical music is for young children, especially in low income areas. There's 4 million kids in America that don't have a music teacher. So
Yeah.
that project is frankly much more fun and exhilarating
But
than
there is a tie there too, because it's like the youth of today, they need this outlet. They need music. It's music education. It builds confidence. It builds community. It builds awareness of the world. And it's like, it's important to raise that. And then it's like, otherwise we have adults today who, there's all this chaos in the world. So it is tied in a way. It's important to, you know, educate the youth, get them exposure to music, let them understand how important it is to get messages across. And, then when we have times like this, music, like you said, music is the thing that can get people through. I mean, I'd love to hear more about, like you said, you've spent the last 20 years, from 9/11 till now performing for troops, connecting your music to world events. I mean, prior to that, was that always your motivation? And a lot of musicians just, hey, I want to make great music, but a lot of musicians say, hey, like it has to be tied to these bigger kind of messages, to motivate the masses and or touch people who are going through these times. I mean, I'd love to just kind of hear more about, your methods.
Yeah, no, I really had no kind of agenda with that. I was just trying to write good songs and be heard and live my dream as a musician. And certainly with 9/11, Superman and the concert for New York, it's
Mhm.
still hard to put that in kind of context. 20 some years later, very rarely does that happen with any artist. But I
Yeah.
do think it kind of made me aware of some of these things that you can shine the spotlight on heroes
Yeah.
with your platform, and you can raise money for funds. I worked with autism kids. I worked with ALS, Augie's Quest. So I've learned how music using my platform can make a difference. I just got back from Israel where I played okay at Hostage Square for the hostage families. Like when you do that and you're looking at those faces and you see that maybe you're making a little difference with their suffering, I think that's contagious. But I'm not a person who has any interest in being on a platform and lecturing, my politics to people. That
Yeah.
frankly annoys me when celebrities do that. But there's a history of music, the protest songs of the 60s, Live Aid, Sun City, the concert for New York. There's a history of musicians writing songs about the times. And to me, all these songs are moral messages. They're not political ones. So I think at this stage of my life, I do see a way to have an impact, especially as I said, when for some reason the music industry has become so silent on some of these critical issues, and Jewish artists don't say anything. That for some reason, the title of my song is, okay, but it's like we're not okay. And
Mhm.
there's something deeply broken when artists and people can't come out and just say, Hamas is evil. What they did on October 7th is evil. You can criticize Israel, you can talk about world events, but if you can't come out and say what happened that day is evil, um, in fear of your agent being mad at you or losing a few tickets,
Mhm.
or something's deeply broken. And I think that's one reason why this song has resonated so much around the world. I wish it wasn't happening, but unfortunately it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And if obviously there's a long political and religious history there, but if you took that out of context and you put it, here, if that attack happened in Coachella or Stagecoach, which were two huge festivals that just happened the last 2 weekends here, right outside of Los Angeles, it would be a shockingly different reaction. So it's a point to be made. So what about for you? Obviously, you've got the new song out. Can we see you somewhere coming up next? Any touring in the near future? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah, I just got off an amazing run with my string quartet, played the Canyon out in Agoura and Coach House down in San Juan Capistrano and had a great time. And I have this amazing cycle where, in the spring I do a string quartet tour, very intimate show, small venues. And during the summer I go out with the rock band. And at the end of this month I'll be in Florida doing some rock shows in Atlanta. In August, we'll be doing few weeks on the road with the rock band, and then September, I'll put the quartet back out there. So I'm so blessed to play with these incredible musicians, and folks still seem to want to come and sing some of these songs. And so, yeah, that's what we're looking forward to. And I got a few other projects in the hopper as well. So it'll be a fun, busy summer.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that sounds amazing. And to get to have, those two different kind of change of paces is also really cool. Like as a musician, to get to, obviously your many hits, Grammy winner, to do the rock star life, but then still, like you said, have these moments where you're, with the more orchestra, and then also like these moments that you just talked about, going physically over to Israel and over to Ukraine and these places that, really need it. So it's awesome to talk to you. And I look forward to kind of sharing all that you've got going on with our readers.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to meet you. And yeah, no, if you could just throw in the links, the Five for Fighting music at Instagram and fiveforfighting.com for folks to find the shows. I'd appreciate
100%.
that. But
Yeah, and we'll
yeah,
tag you on all the things. You feel free to repost if you want. And yeah, we'll make sure we get the word out. And yeah, I think the new song is amazing, and it's important that people are speaking out. So I do thank you for that.
you're welcome. Well, as a born and raised LA boy, it's always a pleasure to talk to local press. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks, guys.